Well, good morning, councillors, and welcome back to the final session of our annual plan. We just made the changes. Welcome everyone first, the staff, the councillors, the media, everyone listening in from home. We've made the changes all the way through. We've got to the stage now where they've been put into the plan. You've got a copy of the draft plan. As long as there's agreement today, which there should be, we'll be taking it to the council meeting on the 29th of June, I think it is, and then it will be adopted. So too late for changes, just looking for any inaccuracies in the document or clarification on what's in the document if you need some clarification. So Tony, you've made some changes. Did you want to now lead us through those changes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors can ask for clarification on the way through.
Yes, absolutely. Sounds good. So thank you for all your attendance today. Hopefully this is the last stage of the process. Erin has just let me know that we have missed putting in the 170k for the Lake Camp toilets actually into the financials. It's referenced in here. It has no impact on rates. It's just due to staff sickness last week, we didn't manage to get all our I's dotted and T's crossed, so we'll get that fixed. So you'll see some movement in the numbers, which we can draw your attention to for the adoption on the 29th of June. Otherwise, the draft is as it is. Last week we worked through highlighting all the changes. So I assume that what we'll just do today is work through section by section. If you've got anything, any questions to raise, we're happy to answer them. And any concerns with the language we may have used and explanations, we're happy to fix as well.
There's 173 pages of it, so we don't want to dwell. We need to keep moving. But the changes have been highlighted and are in yellow in the document. I suppose I make the point, if nothing's in there, it's not in. If it's been omitted for any reason, then it's not getting done. There's no late additions. Caroline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, when we have looked at our annual plans, we've made comments, some of us, on the units of measurement, how these things are measured. Can we comment on the measurement, you know, the level of measurement today or not?
Is it the KPIs you're meaning?
Yeah, well, yeah, my thing's just frozen.
They flow through from the long-term plan. So,
like for example, page 9, which I can't because I've got all these jolly errors come up on my screen. It's got there available, our community outcomes. How will these be measured? Bloody hell, this thing's just jammed. Hold on a minute. 11. Oh, I'm plugged in. It's just I'm getting all these viewer errors, you know. I'll just go out and go back in again. Finally, I'll open it up again.
I think we might know what you're thinking about.
It's got the, yeah, have a look at it. I just can't open it up now.
Yeah.
Can I have a look at yours, Roger?
Tony's got the answer for you, I think.
Yeah, and like by available facilities, and then the other one is be measured by how many people respond to the surveys. We have made comment before that the units of measurement are non-specific and hard to quantify. Is this an opportunity to sharpen those and tighten those up, or is that we have to wait to the next long-term plan for that?
Thank you, through the chair. The short answer is, unfortunately, yes, we do need to wait till the next long-term plan. Okay. So there's two aspects to the measurements and the non-financial performance indicators that we can talk about. The first one on page 9, that's talking about our community outcomes, and that's where we would get a sense of overall, how do we think our community is tracking to meet those community outcomes? So that isn't audited, that's just measures that we established last year when we developed the long-term plan, and our intention is in the next 6 to 9 months is actually to bring back almost like a benchmark report to say, actually, this is where the community is landing on these aspects, and what that might mean in terms of how we interpret that for community wellbeing.
Because arguably that's the most important objective of the lot, is how our community feel about living in the area, and we've got very nebulous indicators of success.
So that's the high level big picture stuff. Yeah. In terms of, I guess to give some context, a long time back in the day, we used to do State of the Community reports, which were about 120 pages and dealt with about 100 different KPIs, but they were actually very difficult to get a sense of how a community was tracking. So this is an attempt to try and streamline that. We haven't done one for probably over 10 years now. So we'll work to make sure that is meaningful when we produce it, and that can be a conversation with council that leads into the next long-term plan.
So just make note on page 2, I think it is, the annual plan, we consulted with 131 submitters who took their time to tell us what they thought, and we made changes, listened to them, made changes, and it was around the projects such as new footpaths, toilets and assessments of disability inclusive playgrounds. Small things, moving things around, but the community felt it was important. We listened and we changed. And didn't affect the overall rates as well. We just moved things around a bit. Some people thought things were more important than we did, and we listened and took that on board and changed it around, so that was good. The next highlighted area, I think, is page 7. And the main challenges that we've got going forward, inflation is one, recovering from the flood of 2021 in May, lifting of compliance regulations for drinking water, and that's we're spending a reasonable amount of monies on that in this coming year, and at the end of that year all our water supplies will be compliant, which is good. And also the revaluation of the district has shuffled things around a bit, as in rates paid, because some values haven't gone all up together, they've moved around, so some are experiencing higher than the average 9.4, some are experiencing lower than the 9.4, and valuations have got something to do with that. Page 7, key changes there, additional drinking wastewater costs to meet the new standards, as I said, 1.7 million from the forestry account for extra roading work, reprioritising money for the footpaths, toilet replacements at Lake Camp, the Rakaia Domain and the Rakaia Gorge. And the Rakaia Gorge is subject to, that's right, getting some tourist infrastructure fund monies. And also the supporting the Rakaia Rugby Club with their new building with a loan of up to $200,000 if required. And we've deferred the Balmoral Hall upgrade for a year, and new curbing at the EA Network Centre to fix a health and safety problem there. Liz?
Just a question on the Rakaia Gorge toilets. Were they not in this budget anyway, or have they been brought forward? I'm just wondering about the wording, toilet replacements at Rakaia Gorge site.
I will double check that, just
Because I know the other two are new coming into
Yes.
this annual plan, but I thought that for some reason, I may be wrong, that the Rakaia Gorge had always been in there.
Thank you. Through the chair, you're correct, Councillor McMillan. We'll change that language.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm just flicking through here now, just looking for the highlighted areas. And again, I have one, I think you know the answer, and I'll ask it before Stuart does. It's on page 12, and it talks about the sources of revenue, and it's got UAGC there at 19%. And here, and I think you have where we say 30%, but I think you have a good reason why it is saying 19 here. Or is that a Tony question?
When we look,
Yep, you're good.
when we're looking at just rates, we take a percentage of that, whereas the graph is showing the total revenue.
Yeah, I knew the answer, but we'll just explain it. So thanks for that. John.
Yeah, page 11, second sentence, it says, we also undertake the large task of running, regulating and monitoring all the goings on that contribute to where and how we live, work, etc., etc. I would suggest we replace goings on with activities. And you may also want to look at your spelling error on page 15.
Thank you.
And the error is?
Infrastructure.
Right. Oh, yep, in the big green area, yep.
Speed typing, that is.
I'm flicking through now reasonably quickly. So if you're going through and highlighted everything, I've up to page 22. Just one question on it's capital expenditure water supply, and it's Rakaia of 918,000 to spend at Rakaia, where the LTP said 461. I know there's a new bore going in, but I didn't think it was that expensive. What's the 918 made up of? Not in detail, but
I'll have to find out the detail. I'll let you know soon.
right. You don't know, Erin. You wouldn't. It's not easy to find from your end, just there.
If we have a look, we have a look on page 17, there's a CapEx works table there, and it shows the movements of what was in the LTP year 2 and what's in the annual plan. So we're looking at things like require, we're looking at the second bore installation costing more, filtration and UV treatment equipment and treatment upgrades.
Yeah, it's just got 450 for a car, which was in the original.
There's below the 450 there are another 2 lines,
Yep.
so that's the
Got it.
difference there.
Yep. Thank you.
Sweet, good job.
Stuart.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The Hines is the same, 283 for Hines, but it's new protozoa treatment.
Yes, that's correct.
Obviously, we're doing it for quite a few.
Yeah, I think the bulk of that protozoa was about $3 million project, so this has been split between each water supply in detail. Yeah,
Yes, we wanted to better explain to each community what they'll look to receive in the next 12 months.
good work. Yep. I'm flicking through as fast as it'll go, waiting for a highlighted area to come up.
Next area is transportation, on page 38.
There's a highlighted area there, and it's around the footpaths, I presume. Funding new footpaths without Whakakatahi subsidy.
Yes, it is, and then that's flowing through and showing in the updates in the table. We wanted to better show what that unsubsidised work was going to be in 22-23.
So no new money, just shuffling around. Yeah,
Yes, that's correct.
John.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused over the footpaths one here. Basically, what we're saying is unsubsidised footpaths total, and it looks to be new expenditure there of $120,000. But in actual fact, all that is an amalgam of the new footpaths for Ashburton, Methven and Rakaia, and they're actually all reductions on what was already in the LTP. So have we got new money going into footpaths, or have we got a reduction of what was in the LTP is now going in the annual plan?
Yeah.
It's through the chair. No, it's not additional money. It's just a reprioritisation of the unsubsidised budget. So it's no extra money. It's just a changing of what was identified initially in the unsubsidised budget.
You may recall that we do our long-term plan before Whakakatahi or the National Land Transport Plan comes out, and they're generally at odds, and we've badgered the government for 10 years on this. It's the wrong way round. So we do our long-term plan, and then they give us the monies after that, and we budgeted more than they gave, so hence the reduction.
I can understand that, but I thought we were reprioritising some extra money to go into footpaths.
Don't think
And it
was
would have
extra
been
money.
shown here.
It wasn't extra money, it was the same money reprioritised.
Right, okay.
Tony?
Through the chair, look, I think with the way we've got it displayed in that table, it isn't clear. So I think what we need to do is include what we did have budgeted in the LTP, just by adding in the totals that we've got missing from that table. So we can fix that, so at least that will show it's possibly a reduction, but we are moving the deck chairs around on the ship, so to speak.
Stuart? Yep.
Page 41. as usual, my gripe about 41.6 cubic metres of gravel should be averaging 48. It says a rolling 3-year average, but that would be 9,000 over the 48, would have to bring 1 year up to 57 cubic metres to try and average that out. I know we put a lot on after the floods, but that would be part of the 41.6, I'm sure. It should be up to the 48.
We won't know this year's until another month's time.
That's right, noting that the 41 is to 30 June 21. So we've had almost another year, but we don't have that year completed yet to include in this document.
For the activity briefing, Neil, could we just have the total? Because you should know the total.
We can do that.
Pretty close.
Yes.
Thanks for the year we're in now. Yep. I'm up to page 60 of the document as it's rolling through. 60. Oh, no, go back to 55, page 55. Angus.
Page 34, if I may.
Okay.
When you're ready.
Yep. 34.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Chief Executive, Councillors, good morning. I had an experience on Saturday. I was down doing my waste management thing and I saw a sign up, cash only from, no cash from the 1st of July. I take note of your comments that if it's not in, it's not in. And I was also very impressed. So I actually emailed the Chief Executive on the Saturday and I got a reply. Then I got to get the thing right. On Monday I went back down about 9 o'clock to see if I could take a photograph of the sign. The sign was actually down. Then when I checked my emails, I got a email from the Chief Executive. So I was impressed at the speed of action that had taken place. And I want that acknowledged. And the email said, "Hello Angus, following some investigation I can advise that unfortunately Enviro Waste got ahead of themselves and must have said something to some people about no cash from 1st of July. We have told them to stop saying that, which is great, and we will follow a process to decide whether it will happen or not. So on that basis, Mr. Mayor, can I have an undertaking from the Chief Executive that for the term of this annual plan, there will continue, you can continue to pay your rubbish, your fees at the dump with cash and other means, please."
Hamish?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we intend to follow a process. So I don't know that I could sit here and guarantee for the term of this annual plan that is going to be the outcome, unless council resolves accordingly. But what I was really trying to signal is that that change won't be made without due process, and it wasn't the right way to go about it. The experience that you had, for which I've apologised. So what I'm signalling is, there's a lot of conversations around cash up and down the country, and whether it should or shouldn't be still used for certain facilities, and a number of councils have moved on from cash and no longer accept it in certain parts of their business. We want to do that work, but the process needs to be followed properly. But I couldn't sit here and guarantee an outcome for an entire year ahead.
Supplementary question to the Mayor.
Yep.
So, Mr. Mayor, in your opening comments, where does that leave us? So this annual plan could be changed if there was a process followed during the term of the annual plan. Am I correct?
I think the annual plan doesn't determine whether you're going to pay by cash or FPOS or Visa or whatever. That's a management decision how they pay. We've decided on the dollars they need to collect.
So the fees are set by the annual plan, not the method of payment.
Okay. It also mentions here we manage
34.
Sorry. We promote sustainable waste management and minimisation. We provide collection services and facilities for transferring and supporting waste to landfill disposal, etc. Enviro Waste holds the contract. So the way I read that in here is that we determine everything, but Enviro Waste holds the contract. So we actually make the decisions on the charges, and I presume from that we would make the decisions on whether how it could be paid.
We being the
Or have I
council,
presumed too much?
the council will ultimately decide whether there should be cash or not. But council has set the fees, and Enviro Waste have the contract to do the work.
Angus, do you feeling there's a lot of people who still like to pay by cash?
Yeah, I think there is, yeah.
Do you know how many would?
Well, I do.
Mr Mayor, that
Point of
we've
order,
seen
we're on page 34, which is stock order.
Stock order too, which I'm getting.
What's the stock order?
We're confused.
43.
Card up the wrong way because I want the people of Ashburton to be able to continue to pay cash when they dump their $8 loads or their $10 load.
Yeah, but not an annual plan matter, in my opinion, Mr Mayor. And as I've signalled to you via that email, we will follow a process which will involve checking exactly how popular it is, what the costs of using it are, and come to a rational decision at the end of that process. But the fees are set by the annual plan.
If the people don't like what is offered, they will certainly tell someone, and they need to meet the expectations of the consumer. Cash is becoming less and less. The day is coming when you won't be using it. When that day is, I don't know, but page 55 I'm on, and it's just summarising the Kiwi Rail, the moving of the Phaeton Freight Hub, or to Phaeton, and the contribution council has agreed to help assist with that, moving them out of the middle of Ashburton. And also it just talks about the Cuban channel at the EA Network Centre there to fix that health and safety hazard. And on page 60, just talking about the Rakai Rugby Club, the Rakai Gorge toilets and the Lake Camp toilets in more detail. John?
Yeah, just coming back to that Rakai Rugby Club one there, I thought we were sort of going to be the lender of last resort, so should we add the words to that with a commercial loan of up to $200,000 to that?
Yeah, it's already been discussed previously that up to 200,000 should be in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 66. I'm on Ashburton Domain. It talks in there about the driveway entrance. And I'd just like clarification. Did we decide we're removing it from the long-term plan or delaying it?
Through Mr Mayor, we have discussed that, and the consensus was for it to be removed from this annual plan.
And the long-term plan?
I don't know that we had that conversation, and this isn't about an amendment to the long-term plan. You can't actually do that. So that we did talk about removing it from the annual plan, so we need to do that.
So the comments at the tail end of it, this project could be considered again at a later date. Is that relevant?
No, we're going to remove the whole item, Mr Mayor.
Oh, yeah. We need to talk that we're not going to do it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Sorry,
John.
that was perhaps just trying to signal.
Yeah.
If my memory serves me correctly, we were going to remove it from the annual plan, but leave it in the LTP with the same amount set aside for it.
What year?
I think the comments are actually accurate. Now I reread them. we've taken it out of this annual plan and discussed why. And of course, we can't touch the LTP other than through a separate process.
Yeah, you're right. Liz?
I was just going to say, I agree. I think this is correct because I think we did decide that
Yeah.
because that domain development plan is actually a 30-year plan as well.
So that just the promenade, discussing that, we talk about significant development by Wakakatahi intersection. Is that relevant to the promenade? No, it's relevant to the entranceway. It's not relevant
No.
to the promenade, I don't think.
You're correct. We'll remove that reference to Wakakatahi. We had the two projects intertwined, I
Right,
think, in a
okay.
previous draft, so that's how that's happened. We'll sort that.
And then next to that, they've got lighting. There's 126K's been allocated for lighting upgrades, and below that, under lighting upgrade, 126K. Is that the same 126K, or is that times 2?
Steve, are you able to shed some light on that one? Sorry, it was a bad pun.
Just through the mayor, it's actually the same project, so it's the wording's doubled up.
Right. Okay.
Just through you, Mayor Neil, maybe that wording around a new driveway entrance is actually not the entrance, it's actually the entrance and road. Just the way the wording is, it
yeah.
might be just a bit misleading.
Yeah.
Referring to an entrance.
New entranceway and road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll tidy that up to make it a bit clearer. Yep. Mine's flicking over about a page a second. I'm up to 88. I'm just looking at my highlighted sections from reading it. I'm at page 98, and it's on footpaths, and it's balancing the footpath account, I presume. There's quite a bit of money in it, but I thought it had been used in the CBD, the reserves, or am I reading it wrong? John, what was your question going to be on? Well, just while I'm waiting for an answer.
On the rates affordability benchmarks,
Oh, we haven't got to that yet, but I don't think. Oh,
it's on page 88.
righto. Okay, we got an answer on the footpath balance?
The balance in that reserve appears to not reflect the movement from the finishing of the CBD upgrade. So that's, we'll look into that as
Just
well.
needs updating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go back to page 88 now, thanks. And John, your question.
Yeah, what I was really after here is the affordability benchmark is its planned rates income or its planned rates increase for the year equal or are less than each quantified limit on rate increases. What does that mean, and how does that work in with the rates affordability benchmark on page 89? Yeah, I just need some explanation on that, please.
Tony, you can help us with that one?
The rates affordability benchmark is based on a percentage of the capital value of the district. So, looking here. So when we're talking about a quantified limit on rates, we're talking about the rates that are set being under a specific percentage, which is it's saying in here that the total rates won't be greater than 1% of the capital value of the district. So that's the cap that's set by that benchmark. Is that answer?
But on page 89, you say the total rates increase for the 22-23 year is to be no greater than 5% plus. What does the LGPI stand for?
That's, sorry, through the chair, that stands for the Local Government Price Index, which is a metric that's produced by Burrell every financial year for us. It was still sitting low, and that was when council decided actually we didn't believe that that number was going to reflect what's actually happening with inflation costs. So council chose to use a higher rate of inflation for this draft annual plan.
So basically, we're putting up rates by on average 9.4. So how does that compare with that local government price index then? And are we therefore meeting the rates affordability benchmark?
Through the chair, the answer is no, we're not meeting that rates affordability benchmark. In the long-term plan, we expected that the rate of inflation would be 2.9% for the 22-23 year, but we knew by December last year, with what was happening and what was coming, that that wasn't going to work, and so council chose to use an inflation rate of 5% for this plan.
So all those numbers we have in there, Tony, where do they come from? Council decides through the LTP?
Yes, they do. So council has a financial strategy, and that's where we set what our targets and our benchmarks are, and that's how we have to report against those.
Yep. Happy with that, John? Question?
My last comment is, should we be commenting somewhere that we are not actually meeting the rates affordability benchmark? Because when you read that, it just says the council meets the rates affordability benchmark if it's planned rate increase, blah, blah, blah type of thing. But if we're not, to me, that leads any reader of the annual plan to believe that we are meeting the rates affordability benchmark, when in actual fact we're not.
That's really, Mr. Mayor, you will note on page 89 that we do say we haven't met it. So we've said no, because if you take the LGPI off the total rates increase, we had a result of 6.5, and the affordability benchmark suggests 5, and we have noted that we haven't met it. So I'd maintain we have been open about that.
With that note that's there, it says council chose to use a higher inflation rate given the current inflationary pressure. Should you just add, and this is why we did not meet? Because council decided to go on a more realistic.
And perhaps, Mr. Mayor, we could even include the actual rate of inflation we used.
Yes,
That would give real
and that'll
clarity.
explain it
Yeah.
clearer. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Stuart?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Why does local government 2.9 is of a historic figure? And we're talking about 22-23. It's ridiculous for local government to say that 22-23 is 2.9 when it's really going to be about 7.
Through the chair, Burrell produced the rate of inflation by about October, preceding the next financial year. So we're about to get in October what the 23-24 projected rate of inflation could be. So we are bound by that number. That's what we've agreed with audit is what we'll use as our basis in our LTPs. But then council has the flexibility to make those other decisions based on what they see happening in the world at the point of time when they're preparing the budgets. So I understand what you're saying, Councillor Wilson, but it's a little bit like crystal ball gazing at times.
Caroline?
Just a quick question on the same topic. Has Bill reviewed that rate of inflation? Like, was clearly it was 2.9 was well under. At the time, probably of announcing it, it was.
Through the chair, they got a lot of feedback on last year's projections.
But they stuck with it. They didn't put out a revisory.
No, because they do it in October to assist councils with their planning. So reviewing it now doesn't.
No, so it was
doesn't
it did not assist us in their planning. They did it as.
No, so it's the classic
been a
case of
failure.
when you need it, i.e. October, it was something different to when the reality hits on the 1st of July. And that was exactly the issue council contemplated.
Yeah.
And
I recall it as quite clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were ahead of them. We could forecast. Yeah, we'd see it wasn't going to be practical what that figure was.
Because we can use an alternative indice, can't we? We can choose another index of inflation. We don't have to use the bill.
No, but we have to refer to it because that is the official local government index, and our own policy refers to the use of it. So yes, we chose another index in the end, but this is related back to our strategy and policy position that we need to reflect on when we do vary it. Yeah.
I'm up at page 101, and it's got special funds. And it's got the special funds include the following reserves. It's got the road and bridge reserve, the road reserve, and then below it's got the amounts in them, those reserves. But the table with the dollar amounts in is not full and complete. There's reserves missing. And an example would be the excess trust reserve, the reserve contribution reserve.
Sorry, can I just double check what page number you're referring to?
102 on Stella, which on the document itself it might be page 101. And page 100 on the document itself.
We'll go away and have a look at what's going on there.
Some dollar amount of reserves is missing.
Yep, we'll get that squared away.
Yeah. John?
Coming back to page 91 on our group revenue and expenditure there, I note that our rates in 30th of June 21 were 38.24. Our annual plan rates, the rates going to 44 million type of thing, which is a 15.75% increase, which is pretty much as forecast type of thing over the 2 years, so there's no issue with that. The one I'm looking at though is personnel costs. Our personnel costs in the year ended 30th of June 21 was $16.7 million. We've now got a projected increase of $19.7 million in our annual plan, which is an 18.26% increase. The question I have though is, we had in the year ended 30th of June 21, we had 196 full-time equivalents. How many full-time equivalents are we working on for the 22-23 annual plan, please?
Sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to explain that. It's a wee bit apple and oranges. The annual report is who was standing as at 30 June, a snapshot in time. The budget is who we need for the whole year. So it's not an exact science, so the numbers will never be the same. We also take into account casual employees in the budget, clearly, because we have to pay them, but the annual report reporting requirements only requires you to include casual employees if they were paid in the last pay of that ended 30 June the previous year, so there's a bit of anomalies there. Additions also into the mix is the art gallery staff that came on board, Mount Hutt Memorial Hall, the year 2 approved LTP positions, and also the year 1 LTP approved positions that started halfway through. So those are all the differences. So the number I got to was 165 FTEs of salaried employees and 70 FTEs of waged employees, and that came to 235 as an approximation.
Liz?
Back on 101 and just looking at the dividend reserves, 11 million, is that correct? That's what it is? Seems a lot.
Just trying to.
It's in the table on page 101, page 100 on the document 101, Stella. Dividend account.
We will double check that. We will double check that.
Thank you.
It started and ended the same amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, we'll get an explanation on that.
The reason that we would find it would begin and end on the same amount would be because all of the dividends are being treated as rates contributors. So that's why there's that movement basically in and out of the reserve.
I'm going through the fees and charges now, which we've been through several times. It should be all as we expect. And I've just got to the end of page 173 and I have no more questions. Does anyone have any questions on that document if you're up to the same page as I am? Doesn't appear to be. I think we have completed the task. A few minor changes in there, all but minor. Oh, John.
Yeah, is this plan actually subject to audit?
No.
It's not. Okay, thank you.
The long-term plan gets audited, not the annual plans. Nothing further. Oh, Stuart.
I'll have to bring it up under activity briefings, but on page 127, it talks about people with water meters are read every quarter. And I was at a reserve board meeting last night that doesn't seem to have been done. It's activity briefing stuff, but if we've got it in the annual plan, it should be done. I don't know what's happening there, but I'm just more or less giving a notice. It'll be a question on activity briefing.
Do you want to hold it to then? I think you have your answer, I think, do you?
Yeah, no, I do. We just have had an issue with a staff member. Our staff member resigned and left, and our replacement, unfortunately, has had to be on, had to go to hospital and be away. So it's just been a resourcing issue.
So it'll pick up.
Yes, we'll be back into it. Yeah.
Yep. Great.
Mr. Mayor, our policy about water leaks is quite adamant. You know, if it's red in a quarter and you get a water leak, if you do it immediately, you get a rebate. Well, if it's not red and you get into 6 months or 9 months, it's going to be difficult for the council to keep the policy.
We do recommend that people read their meters, especially on those community schemes, especially pools, schools. Someone needs to read the meter and see it's not buzzing around faster than it should. Yeah. So, nothing further. I think we've come to a conclusion of the annual plan. It's ready to go for adoption with those few little tweaks on the 29th of June. So Tony, you further to add, or Erin, happy with that?
Nothing further to add, just some of those queries that you've made, we'll put those all into a memo so you get them by early next week, so you understand what's happened.
Great.
Thank you very much.
So thank you all the work for all the work you've done to get it to here, and there's been a lot of involvement with all the departments, so well done. Thanks, I will declare the meeting closed.